the complete text of a handbill found fixed to a pole in the main square of the Shadowfell village of Barovia. Attention! Attention! All you who may read this message may be advised and delight in your good fortune at the arrival in your vicinity of Mistress Isolde's misty carnival of mysteries and wonders. Such distractions and delights as you may scarce believe now lie in store for you, good friend. Here you will find the finest performances of daring risk and acrobatic skill, feats of grand athleticism, and thrills enough to quicken the dead, together with oddities and curiosities of every sort, from creatures exotic and rare to strange variations in life's design, pleased to display their unique physiognomies for your edification and delight. In addition, look as well to find fortunes told, dreams interpreted, and unique souvenirs of strangeness offered for sale. Gaze upon the tragic visage of Ulrich Barkhamsted, the man who will not die, despite our best efforts. Marvel at the elegant bladework of Elena von Zarovich, who can split a man's head at 100 paces if he doesn't learn to mind his own business. Embrace the enlightenment of the Tridiloth as it guides you through a psychedelic labyrinth of uncanny self-examination. Savor an assortment of inadvisable fried foods. Amazement, terror, bewilderment, mirth. All of this and more awaits you at the Misty Carnival. Hurry now and don't delay, for our engagement is limited, and you will grieve to be alone amongst your friends and neighbors in missing the greatest of all traveling shows. The price of admission is but 1 copper piece, twice that on free days. Children always admitted free.
If you follow the ashen path out from Dead Man's Cross, you will find the House of Black Lanterns. There, if you're willing to wager that which you cannot imagine losing, you stand to win the very stuff of dreams. Of course, if the tables don't suit your interest, the house also offers some of the finest dining, entertainment, and lodging in all the Shadowfell, thanks to the efforts of its unparalleled, if eccentric, staff. Welcome to the Chimera, a role-playing adventure podcast. Our current game is the House of Black Lanterns, which takes place in the venerable campaign setting of Greyhawk, but kind of off to the side of it, and which we play using Simple World by Avery Alder, a pared-down version of Apocalypse World built to allow players to easily create their own powered by the Apocalypse hacks. I'm Vin LeBate, and I'll be playing Lizzie, the bartender. Joining me this week are Jeffrey Bard as Pix the Bellhop, Braden Lamb as Zani, the concierge, and Kelly Wiseman-Asbruth Jackson, the Game Master. Now, let's get started.
So, back in the artist studio, Jackson Dredd is setting out her tools. She's got several different chisels, several different hammers, something like a trowel, some things that seem to be there for measuring. She's sort of getting things ready. Does Lizzie make small talk, or does she just sort of stand around?
Oh, she makes small talk. So how long have you been with us for this stay, Jax?
We're coming up on a year now. I mean, such as it is, the calendar in this part of existence is sketchy at best. She goes over to a side table, opens a flask, like a fancy... Oh, the sort of thing you'd keep like a very fancy alcohol in. And she turns it on its side, and instead of the liquid pouring out, music comes out of it. It's some combination of a fife and a drum, and maybe there's some strings there, although they're not featured. But it's upbeat. It's sort of sinewy in its feel. Like, yeah. I'll do that. I'll leave it at that. Sinewy sort of music. How long have you been here?
Again, hard to say, but probably about 3 years. Not as long as some, but longer than others.
Yes, I suppose that's true enough. And what brought you here?
Gravity, mostly. I used to work on a ship, and we collided with some ground, and there wasn't much left save me. And when I sort of walked away from the wreck, all there was an ashen path, and here we were.
Well, I suppose the fates move in complicated ways. You found your way here. You've stayed for a while. You must find something you enjoy here, and now you're in my studio. Now, she turns towards Lizzie and says, let's see. How would you summarize your existence? Physically, I mean. What would you say is your ideal posture? The way you'd want to be remembered?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it?
I like to try and find the soul, the innermost self of my subject. That's what I'm really trying to bring out in my work. Is it reaching skyward? Are you defined by your ambitions? Is it touching the ground? Are you a person who's deeply connected to something?
My people, we've got a strong military tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not exactly who I am, I like to think of myself as being very connected to people. So I think something that's very open and friendly and on the same level as the people around me,
Yeah, I think that I do. So she takes her hands and she starts sort of posing Lizzie a little bit. And she has her hold her arms a little bit out from her sides, elbows bent so that they're kind of making a line a little above her waistline. Right arm forward, reaching out, but not like fully extended, like sort of a bowed arm reaching outward. The left arm more inward, a tighter bow, but still open and still a gesture of expansiveness, like someone who is reaching out to others, but on their level. It's just a sort of an open posture, receptive. How does that feel? That feel natural to you?
It does. It does now you mention it.
Good. Think you can hold that for a while?
I think I can.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And now let's talk about your face. This expression that you have now, does that feel like natural to you, especially if you're going to hold your arms like this? Seems this is the deepest level of interest in Lizzie as a person or an emotional being that she's showed so far.
I think so. I don't think about my face that much. Now that I think about it, which I haven't thought about it before that much, but now I am. I feel like this is mostly what it looks like.
Very good. And your ears like that, you think? Or down? Or one up, one down?
She pauses and thinks, and her ears move into this sort of like attentive position. I think this is probably how I look at the bar when someone's looking to be engaged.
Very good. You've been so helpful. I really appreciate it. We're going to make beautiful art together. She comes, sort of finishes, and I says, just hold like that. Just stay as still as you can, and sort of walks away from Lizzie back over to her tools and turns around and makes a gaze attack against you.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come.
So, okay, why don't you roll... Let's see, what did we say? The traits are clever, weird...
Charming and fierce?
Charming and fierce. Roll fierce.
Ugh. 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Tell me, do you have a sudden need to not be getting turned to stone?
I do have that need. There's definitely an internal alarm going off.
I think that I think it's fair to say that everyone in the hotel has some version of that need, but it becomes more proximate in Lizzie's case all of a sudden. So here's the way this is going to go, I think. She turns and like her eyes are completely different, and all the eyes on her snakes are completely different. They're glowing. There's a tell here that something is amiss, right? And let's see. So Lizzie's worst trait is weird, right?
Yes.
Okay. Her worst trait is weird. So I guess I'll give you a choice then, based on your roll. Because she rolled pretty well and you did not. Your choice is be a statue or something more problematic happens.
Something more problematic than being a statue?
Yep.
Well, I think we all like surprises. So let's pick door number 2.
Okay, you picked door number 2. So there's a flash of light, like, I would say like a flashbulb going off, although that's not a metaphor, obviously, that most of these characters would recognize. There's a flash of light, and seeing that something is clearly wrong here with Jackson, or something is not going normal. Like things have been normal, mundane, calm. Suddenly something is not normal, mundane, calm. Lizzie has enough time to sort of react and throw her hands up a bit. And at the time of that flash, there's also a bang from somewhere behind Lizzie, like a loud crack. And when the light has passed and she's sort of blinking and trying to get her senses about her, she can she can smell smoke in the room. So she's sort of dazed. What's going on? There's a bunch of smoke. In fact, the drop cloth that she's standing on that fills up much of the room is now on fire, spreading up the wall. It's going rather fast, in fact.
I'm probably going to attempt to leave the room.
Okay. So the fire is spreading. The smoke quickly fills the space. Jax Andretta is yelling somewhat incoherently, like, what's going on? She's upset. She's concerned about her materials. She's concerned about her other artwork. She has some sketches she needs to save. She's sort of a flurry of activity. She seems to sort of be disinterested in Lizzie one way or the other. She's focused on whatever's going on in her room.
I think I'm going to just grab her by the collar and walk out the door with her.
I'll just let you do that because she's not focused on defending herself.
I don't know what the hell your game is, but I
was going to immortalize you, and then there was a fire?
You know full well that is not how that whole process works for most people. And also all your things are on fire. And we're not going to get burned alive in here. Even if I do think I'm going to break your neck when we're done.
So you're able to get her out of the room pretty easily, but the smoke is now coming out into the corridor. Like it's a concerning level of fire.
I'm probably going to try to find, because we discussed in the last episode, there's a system of bells and on wires that let us signal around. So I'm going to try and find one of those, the nearest station, or like.
As soon as you think about it, it's ringing.
Mm-hmm.
and a voice behind you says, "What happened?"
This rat got her hand and then started a fire somehow.
Somehow.
She was not a very good choice for a model, I just have to say.
I think you need... I'm not even talking to you now. You're going to shut your mouth, and we're going to deal with whatever this is. Yeah, it's on fire, by the way.
This is bad.
Do you have any actions related to the fire?
Who, me?
Yeah, anybody on screen.
I don't think I have anything that specifically pertains. I imagine we have some ghost maintenance crew that we must have some sort of fire
there must
protocol.
be some sort of fire protocol. Yes,
there's
I agree.
This can't be the first time this place has been on fire.
Zani is like shouting and pointing to apparently nobody at first, but then ghostly forms materializing. He's shouting to them to grab the buckets, go to the pond, form a chain.
Cast create water.
All right, so a bunch of ghostly servitors sort of drift up out of the floorboards and nod and go off, come back with buckets of water, start throwing it on the walls. It takes a while, but eventually they put out the fire. It's done terrible damage to her studio. The finished sculptures that were there before are, they haven't been damaged in the sense that they're stone, but they're covered in soot. Like it's not great for the sculptures. Of course, her papers are all gone. Jackson Dredd, of course, is incensed. I've been a guest of this hotel 3 times before. I have an arrangement with the management. This is my work.
I'm sorry, does your arrangement include sacrificing the staff to your art? Lizzie is just like berating her for this process. You know that there's a difference between making a statue of someone and making someone a statue. You must know that.
Zani sort of gently puts his hand, steps in, intercedes, and says, "Thank you very much for staying with us, Jack Sandretta. We are sorry you couldn't stay longer," and starts sort of ushering her to the front.
She pokes, makes a very pointed gesture at Lizzie and says, "I don't just make statues of people. Any Medusa can do that. I make a statue of their essence. I make a form from within their form, the very center of their being." She gestures at some of the finished, now soot-covered ones. The very innermost self. That's what I carve out of this dross, this detritus, this... She gestures at Lizzie like, she's not there. And you, the proprietor, is going to hear about this.
I will see to it personally.
Lizzie has a look of dawning realization about the other sculptures and the process that's been going on. No, just get out of my sight. Ugh.
So, the room is a mess. Much as this, damaged and destroyed, the fire was successfully contained to this room, so it hasn't spread to anybody else's, and that's good. That's good for the hotel, obviously. Anything else you want to say or do about this before I move to another scene?
Zani is gonna cover Jax Andretta in shadow, so that to any other guests walking the halls, it appears that he is just walking briskly down the hall.
Okay. So he walks along with her as she's on her way out.
Mm-hmm.
Lizzie takes one last look sort of around the studio, just like with a long sigh. And then if nothing immediately jumps out, heads back to the bar.
So she looks back around the studio. Clever roll?
Sure.
Please.
That's another 4. I think every roll that I've made in this game has been a 4.
A 4. That sucks. Looks like a burnt out studio. Tisk tisk. What a shame. Nothing to see here. So are you sort of perp walking Jackson to the door, Brayden? What are you doing here?
Yes, to the back door.
To the back door, okay, which we've established is sort of like, it's also a reception area, but it's the cozy, subtle, much less ostentatious and more warm sort of reception area with rich leathers and whatnot. And then out the back door is the Ashen Path, and in the distance you can see Dead Man's Cross, like if you really squint. I am very disappointed, and I expect that you will be hearing about it. Good day. She crosses her arms and gives Zani a look like, oh, you're in so much trouble now, and steps out without further argument.
Thank you for staying with us. Please don't come again.
Lizzie returns to the bar where the assistant is going about its business, pours herself a pint, and turns to it and says, you think you could trust someone when they stay in your establishment? You think, you don't want to make generalizations about someone and they just totally live up to your worst ideas? Keep this up. I'm gonna go sit in the wine cellar for a few minutes. Make a noise if anything bad happens.
I will do so. One of the guests at the bar is a anthropomorphic house cat in black leathers and with an eye patch over his right eye, and says in response, but not necessarily to Lizzie, just sort of like, oh, people are talking, I'm going to say something about what people are talking about. Trust is ever a misplaced emotion. Always a mistake, I have found.
She looks him over. I'm not sure I go that far. I mean, I come from a place where you have to trust people or you're just not going to make it. But I don't know, I'm just out my entire element today. I'm sorry. Of course, you're the guest here. Is there anything I get for you?
Milk.
Is cow's milk all right?
It'll do.
Lizzie puts her pint down on the bar, ducks down to the icebox, pours a glass of pleasantly fresh and cold cow's milk, and presents it.
You would think that in the House of Black Lanterns, if cow's milk is everybody's second choice, we should keep everybody's first choice on tap, whatever that might be.
But everybody's first choice is different.
That's right. Cow's milk is just the universal second choice. That's what it comes down to.
It's Pepsi.
Fifth choice at best. Those twins are back, and they come over to the cat figure, and one of them tugs on one of his straps. Let's see, the boy tugs on one of his straps, and then the girl says, "My brother would like to know if you will play with us." And he looks at both of them with one eye, sips his milk, and says, "All right, but I picked the game." And they go over one of the tables, and he gets out a deck of cards, and they start to apparently play Three Dragon Ante together.
But not the war version.
No, the actual, I mean, you'd have to go up and like carefully watch them to make sure that they're playing Three Dragon Ante, which you can do if you want. But they're like, they have hands, they have cards in front of them. It matches the way it looks when someone is playing Three Dragon Ante with the Three Dragon Ante deck. They're also, the kids have produced coins from somewhere, and they're wagering, so.
I bring them each a glass of whatever that juice was that they enjoyed. Loquat juice, yes. But otherwise, mostly stay out of their way while they're playing.
It takes a while because they're at it for several hands, but it becomes apparent that this guy's not pulling his punches. He's playing a really cutthroat game of Three Dragon Ante against these kids. It's like the equivalent of watching a card shark play with literal children. So that scene unfolds.
I think I'm mostly watching their reactions because, they've been sort of a touch inscrutable. But if it seems like things are getting out of hand on their end, I'll probably say something. But if it looks like they're just rolling with it, then I'll let them go.
Yeah, they're not very emotive.
Yeah.
Right. They're these strange creepo children. So they don't show a lot of excitement or anything else for that matter. And that continues here. They're playing and losing badly. And then eventually the girl stands up first and then the boy, and the girl says, "We are done playing this game." And then they leave the bar, and the cat guy rakes in the coins and puts them in his purse. And at that point, he'll probably leave too in a different direction.
Okay.
All right. So Pix mostly hangs out in the foyer when he's not doing anything else. Is that right?
Yeah, for the most part. Like every once in a while, if he's on break, he'll go to the bar, he'll go outside, or he'll, wander a little bit. But, as far as his core duties, they all involve the lobby. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that he's actually out in somewhere in the gardens since he's on a break, and it's a fine area to be. And there's the night blooming jasmine is just starting to unfurl, and it's a lovely time of evening to take in a moment in the natural beauty of the gardens there. And the woman from before, the one with the red rose tattoo on her cheek, is there looking into a small pond that's part of the garden and just looking thoughtful, sitting on a bench.
Ah, Miss Rose, you found the thought pond. This is one of my favorite places in the garden. I'm glad you found it.
Is that what this is called?
It's what I call it. When I need to have a sit and think about things, this is where I go. And how are you? How is our establishment treating you?
Oh, just fine. It's lovely. Thank you. Certainly more than I needed.
Have you found the safety that you're looking for?
She looks down and away. Down. She has her right hand on her belly and sort of pats it slightly and says, "I hope that I have."
Something that occurs to me, I have an ability called Persistently Inconspicuous, and I want to go back into my memory and see if there's anybody who has talked about somebody matching Crimson Rose's description or using her name or something along those lines.
Oh, so have you overheard any conversations or seen anyone come through that seems relevant to this?
Yeah.
Is that a roll or you just...
It's a roll.
It's a roll. Okay, so make the roll. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
It's a clever roll. And I get a 12.
Dang.
Okay. So yeah, you have.
Sweet.
So that's the thing about following the dice rolls in this. Sometimes it turns a no into a yes. All right. So, as we've established, there are at least two common ways in and out of the House of Black Lanterns. And if someone was going to stay here for a while, it's sort of inevitable that they would have some interaction with Pix unless they were going way far out of their way not to. But if someone just comes in and doesn't stay in the hotel and, for instance, goes to the casino, Pix might not have a direct interaction with them, but there's still also the possibility that Pix would still see them or hear something about them. So, thinking back, Pix, you remember that several years ago, there's a semi-regular who comes, often stays a few nights, spends most of her time in the casino, definitely on good terms with the proprietor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a woman. Yeah. Her name's Mistress Isolde. And she runs some kind of a circus or a carnival or something like that. probably all the details aren't necessarily obvious to Pix. They definitely haven't been explained to him in detail, but she has some sort of a business outside the hotel that's relatively successful, such that she's able to come here on a semi-regular basis and gamble a substantial amount.
Okay.
And usually she doesn't come alone. It's usually like there are some people with her who are like people who work for her, and it's real variable who's with her. Pix definitely hasn't seen the same group of people any one time.
Okay.
And thinking back, there was a time when she was there and she didn't stay in the hotel that time. Like, she just came to gamble and then she left that night. And one of the people with her was a redheaded woman with a red rose tattoo. He's pretty sure. He definitely didn't meet her. But
Okay.
he feels like that's something that he remembered, sort of like seeing out of the corner of his eye, and then the scuttlebutt in the hotel was that was one of the people who was there with Mistress Isolde that time.
Ah. Okay. 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 I don't know what to do with that yet,
That's okay.
but it's good information.
Okay. I think we're about at time for me, and so
Okay.
I have a button for this, unless anybody else has something urgent that they want to add before we close for this session.
Maybe a brief scene between Pix and Zani again.
Mm-hmm.
As Pix comes back to the lobby, he sees that Zani is back in the office and seems startled to see him, and fluttering up out of his hands is a moth-like thing, but if a moth's body was the size of a rabbit, and it seems like it started white and has been slowly gaining these weird patterns on it, like a what's it called? Like a Pandora's Sphinx. The moth sort of flutters around the office. Zani says, "Oh, Pix, what are you doing here?"
That's a weird question, Nizami. I am here to do my bellhop routine. Come on. Why are you acting weird?
Well, why don't you go bellhop elsewhere?
What are you up to? What is this moth?
I'm not up to anything.
You're up to something.
I'm just sending a little message.
Message to where?
I need to get some upholsterers in for the room that Jax Andretta recently vacated.
Jax left?
Oh, did she?
Well, that's weird. She was one of the proprietor's favorite guests.
Well,
I hope she was happy with her stay.
until quite recently, I think she was.
What happened?
Zani is now kind of relaxing now that he's
Distracted.
now that we're on talking about something else. He starts telling Pix what went down.
Okay.
The moth keeps fluttering around.
All right. So I think we'll pan away from this then, unless there's something to close with. Okay, good. So Zani fills in Pix, and then we're going to cut back to the bar where, remember from the last game, there are these two, they're ogre mages. I don't see any reason to be coy about it. Guests that are staying with the hotel long term. One has black hair, one has white hair. The white-haired one, the one that seems to be deferent to the black-haired one, appears in the bar again to place the order for dinner once again. Hands it to Lizzie.
I'll send this to the kitchen straight off.
Thank you very much. He sits down, waits. Eventually, one of the stewards brings out a platter, and he takes it back up to the room. Once he's gone, Cadwin comes out, the chef comes out from the doorway to the kitchen and is just sort of musing to Lizzie. I don't understand. They keep ordering the same thing.
Are we back on the lungfish again?
We never left as far as I'm concerned. They order it every night. Every day I try to get more lungfish. Something goes wrong every time. It's spoilt, or it turns out to be albacore instead when you open the barrel up.
Could I add a particular wrinkle to this?
Mm-hmm.
That they did order lungfish and they were keeping it in the pond, but after the fire, the pond was drained.
That's great. That's the reason why they don't have lungfish tonight, right? So tonight, we had it all ready to go. We were keeping it fresh in the pond. I got it very specifically live lungfish. What can go wrong with a live lungfish? And then they threw them onto the fire in the room in the artist in residence quarters. I don't understand both ways. I don't understand why they keep asking for it. I don't understand why I can't give it to them.
It's almost like this entire place is haunted.
She gives you a look like...
Yeah, let's just get a drink, shall we?
She'll agree to that.
That's it this week for the Chimera. Our theme music is Hoof, Heart, and Hiss by Matt Weber. You can find a link to more of Matt's work and any other music used in this episode in the show notes. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/chimerapod, or by leaving us a rating on your favorite podcast app, or just by telling a friend. We'll be back with a new episode in 2 weeks, but if you want to see what we're up to in the meantime, you can find us online at thechimera.space, or on Twitter or Facebook at chimerapod. Thanks for listening.
Yay! Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry, Vin.
Yeah,
I've got a crying baby in the background to some of this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, Sarah.
All right, gonna stop recording.
For the record, Zani was trying to send a message to a fence to sell that sculpture.